am Patricia Vallone with CTV News, and with me now is Dr. Carol Baltazar. She is going to fill us in on a story that we followed about 10 days ago. It seems almost like months ago because so much has happened in those 10 days. We spoke with a doctor from LA during that time period, and he talked about some of the concerns that he had because of the lack of PPEs, personal protective equipment. And he was concerned that within 2 weeks, there were going to be mass problems in hospitals across the country. We're now approaching that time period. What are you seeing in terms of the lack of that equipment?
In terms of locally or the hospitals in Maryland, I think that they're trying to be prepared for more shortages in the PPEs. I have spoken with some docs, and they're trying to reuse some masks and conserve, however way they can. But in other areas such as New York City, where the population is obviously more dense, I've spoken with some docs over there and communicated with them, and what I'm hearing is that it's more like a war zone in those areas.
So what is your concern? You're going to be coming up here now, what they think is peak season for COVID-19. What is your concern, and what methods are you using to try and combat this, particularly the face mask shortage?
Right. In terms of like the face mask shortages, I think that some doctors actually in the area, they still have some masks, but what they're trying to do by conserving at this time is they're using these surgical masks on top of their N95 masks. And probably what I need to do is backtrack, because when we talk about masks, there are actually two different things, from like the N95 respirators that these healthcare workers or doctors and nurses that are using and putting on their faces when they're dealing with or taking care of patients who are positive for the virus, or who are also being evaluated for possibly having the virus. So in terms of like the regular face masks that you might see like in the community, or people just wearing them in other locations in the hospital, those face masks are different because they have different filtration efficiencies. So the N95 is actually a type of mask that actually has more of a seal on the face, so it fits better. So you can have an N95 mask, but it has to be fitted properly. So it's these N95 masks that doctors are trying to reuse and save. So there's different ways to do it. The first way is you can rotate the mask like this, and this would be ideal if you are not in a shortage. So say somebody has like 3 masks. They say that the virus can survive in the air for about 3 hours, and on cardboard for about 24 hours, and then plastic for about 3 days. So if you have 3 masks, let's say, you would put a mask in a paper bag, and then that would be day 1, and then you would leave that mask in the bag for about 3 days. Second day, they would use a different mask. So basically they're rotating. Now, that's not ideal, but it's something. Some other doctors, what they've been doing is baking it in an oven, like a cookie. So the only thing is that these masks have a certain type of filtration efficiency, and that's why they're called N95s. So they can filtrate particulate matter up to 95%. So the thing is, you can bake it in the oven or put it in the oven at 160 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. And the reason why they say 30 minutes is because they're saying that, and if this is true, the virus survives in the environment or in air for about 30 minutes at 150 degrees Fahrenheit.
So if I'm gathering from what you say, you're basically rotating, maybe you have 2 or 3 masks, and you're waiting for the virus, perhaps if it's on there, to die.
Exactly.
And using one of the other masks. Obviously, that's not the ideal situation, but you're saying that that's basically what's going on in hospitals now. That's the form of sanitation that's being used.
Exactly. I mean, some people are actually also utilizing UV sanitizers, like those cosmetic boxes that you may see. They'll put the mask in there and then leave it in there for about, I believe, 30 minutes. But again, the only issue with that is it really depends on the strength of that UV light, because you don't want to break down the material in the mask itself, because there's actually these electrostatic charges in the mask that help with the filtration of the particulate matter. So you don't want to break that part down.
So the doctors, in a sense, in addition to doing the crazy amount of work that they're having to do right now, are also having to figure out how to sustain their masks.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there are some papers out there giving some guidance, but I mean, thank goodness we were just talking earlier about the internet and being able to exchange ideas. There is some information out there from Stanford, information from Dr. Sai, and I believe he's the actual inventor of the filtration media that is embedded into the mask.
So one of the things we've seen, I recently posted something about Prince George's Hospital Center. They were requesting some assistance because apparently 3 nurses had 1 sewing machine and they were making masks around the clock as opposed to being able to work in the field where they were needed. And the community members took it over. They've been making these masks. They're trying to be uniform. But these are the masks, from what I understand, that are going over top of those filtration masks that you just talked about, the N95. Is that something you're seeing, like this double mask? And are there people helping to make these?
I haven't seen that. I've seen like just people trying to just make masks in general. I mean, it would help to put it over these N95 masks, but I would say if somebody has ever put on one of these N95 masks, it is difficult to breathe with them on, because what makes them so effective in the ability to filtrate the particulate matter is that it has a seal on the face. And just because you have the mask, it has to be fitted properly. It really does have to have that seal on it to give you that protection. So that's the difference between the N95, like I said, versus those regular surgical masks that you see people wear, because those don't have a seal. The surgical mask or the regular face mask that people or that you see, that's basically a one-way type of protection. You're basically protecting the other person from catching anything, or you're protecting them from any droplets that you may be passing on through talking, coughing. Whereas the N95, it's a two-way type of protection. It's protecting you, the wearer, and then you're protecting the other person as well.
So what are your thoughts about doubling up, which you've seen, with this type of masks?
I mean, I think that it will help, because it'll help conserve the masks that are out there already. I think we just need to see also whether these other methods are also helpful, like the UV light, and also putting them in the oven to desanitize them. People have asked also about using alcohol, but you don't want to use alcohol to clean these masks, because it affects the electrostatic charge on them and decreases the efficiency of the filtration.
Are there any particular types of doctors that you're seeing are a little bit more at risk? Emergency rooms, ICUs, for example, and are they getting any more masks, or are they in the same situation?
I think they're in a similar situation. I think the doctors in the ICU, they're wearing more protective gear. They might be wearing something that has looks more like a helmet, because they're doing intubations and doing more, aerosolizing procedures. So while they should, they have masks, they also have other equipment too. But then again, these, everything is becoming a shortage these days.
Anything that you would like the public to know before we close out that they can do to make this situation any better?
I think I'd like to thank all the healthcare workers and staff at the hospitals, those at the, on the front lines, helping everyone. And I'd also say that everybody has a part to do in this crisis, and staying at home is important. I know that we have friends that are, making these disaster preparedness kits, and I just want to thank them for doing that for our community. But I think, like I believe Governor Hogan said yesterday, everybody can be a hero in this, and we can all do our part by, staying at home.
All right, some great advice there, Dr. Carol Baltazar. Thank you so much for joining us, and we want to wish you the best and all the healthcare workers the best out there. Stay safe.
Thanks, you too, Patty.